Hi there. Good morning. I'm Melissa DeRosier. I'm the CEO of the 3C Institute, which is a research and development company in RTP, North Carolina. I'm also the Chief Scientific Officer of Personalized Learning Games, which is the company that actually is moving the games that 3C develops and tests into the marketplace. The games that we are moving right now are in the K-12 marketplace. So these were all the things that I was supposed to talk about today, and I don't really have any time to do all four of those, so I'm not. I'm really going to focus on the first one, because as I was at the Games for Change conference yesterday and looking at all the wide variety of games, really I think the most relevant question is the first one. So, is there any evidence of real-life transfer from games? Now, my area is in the social-emotional learning space. So that's my concentration of, can we show that games actually impact real-life social-emotional behavior? But the question is also equally applicable to any other game and what you expect to impact. And part of the issue is that, we're at a conference called Games for Change. So we expect that our games are going to lead to change, that our games are actually going to have impact on the people who are playing those games. That's the purpose for which we're here. So how do we actually know? How can we actually demonstrate that our games lead to real-life change? That's a key question. So a lot of times people will talk about usability testing, right? What is it? During the course, we all do this. When we're developing games, we do usability testing. We go out there, we get people to try out our games, they give us feedback, we see what works, what doesn't work. It's an excellent, tremendously valuable iterative process during the course of development, but it answers different questions. It does not answer the change question. It answers questions about, is my software working the way I thought it was going to work, right? Do people like my game? Are they motivated to play it? Are they engaged in my game the way I think they should be or I want them to be? And what kind of feedback can I get so I can iterate my user experience to make it optimal for my user? These are different questions. These are not change questions. These are not efficacy questions. In order to measure change, you really must do that. You must look at, well, what do I expect this game to impact? What are the outcomes that I expect this game to change? There are lots of different kinds of things. For me personally, in the social-emotional learning space, I expect to improve things like social literacy. I want to show that kids who play my games learn what these social skills are. They know what communication and empathy and emotion regulation mean. They know when to demonstrate that behavior, right? So that's called social literacy. It's an understanding. It's very cognitive. I also want to look at external outcomes. So I want to know things like social self-efficacy. Do the students feel more confident in those social skills? I may be able to learn about those social skills, but do I feel like I can go out in the real world and successfully be pro-social, engage in those social activities? Because it's a scary world out there, and I want to feel confident that I can actually implement those skills that I'm learning. And then we also want to look at things that are external, things like, my thing isn't working. There we go. I need lines. So we want to look at outcomes that are from other people. We want other people to tell us, like social behaviors. So outside of what you're teaching in the game, which are called proximal outcomes, which are closely related to what you teach, you also want to look at what are called more distal outcomes. So behaviors further removed from your game. So in my realm, it would be asking teachers and parents, what do you see in this child's social behavior? Are they hitting people? Are they getting sent to the office for fighting? Are they better able to come up and collaborate on a science project? Things like that. We're looking for those social behaviors that we would expect our game to improve. And The gold standard in research are randomized clinical trials. And truly, the only way that you can demonstrate that your game is effective for what you think it's effective for is through a randomized controlled design, where you have a sample, you pull them all together, you randomly assign them to treatment or control. Oftentimes control is just a waitlist control where they don't receive anything, but you get measures at the time points for everybody. You get baseline before anyone gets your game. Sometimes you can have midpoint in the middle of the game, but more importantly at the end or post. That's critically important, and then you collect it for all students and you compare treatment versus control. So in our game, and I'm not going to go into a lot of detail, I'd be happy to give anyone demos for this. Zoo U is the first game that we are pushing to the K-12 market. It has actually been funded, including randomized clinical trials, through the U.S. Department of Education. In total, we have 5 games currently in development or randomized clinical trial, and over $5 million from Department of Ed to develop and test those games. So these are just 2 of the example outcomes for Zoo U in our first randomized clinical trial. So if you look like what you expect to see, of course, is that at post, your treatment line is going to be significantly greater. So like emotion regulation and other social skills, able to demonstrate that compared to your control group, they actually did get better in those social behaviors and social skills. And then self-efficacy, as I said, is critically important to us. So again, being able to demonstrate that compared to a control group that did not receive your treatment, randomly did not receive your treatment, actually is better in that outcome. So again, just to reiterate, if we are here to demonstrate that the games that we develop actually lead to social impact and change, it is really our responsibility as a field to conduct these trials and to actively engage in randomized clinical trials, because this is the only way you're going to be able to convince the world that you are able to impact change. If you want more information about Zoo U, you can go to zougame.com or personalizedlearninggames.com. As I said, Zoo U is the first one, and we have 4 other games coming out this year and next year, all of which have been clinically tested. And I think I have time. So any questions? Yes, sir.
What's the magic for getting randomized clinical trials funded? The bane of the existence of nonprofits is that people don't want to pay for evaluation. So how did you work this magic?
Thank you. I am a magic maker. I love grants. So I love writing grants. And so part of it is, if you don't love writing grants, which most people don't, I strongly encourage you to partner with a research institute, either in an educational, university setting. There are tons of academic game research institutes. You can partner with them. They're continually looking for good games to enter into a grant competition so that they can do randomized trials. I would strongly, and then private foundations also are going to be able to give you some seed money. Seed money is very, very helpful. Say you did what's called an underpowered randomized clinical trial, which means you don't have a whole bunch of people, but you have enough where you're able to demonstrate. You can do a small randomized clinical trial, say with 40 people, 20 in each group. You can do that relatively inexpensively and get your data and then go for a grant that can give you substantive amounts of money. You also need to publish that data. You need to get it into a peer review journal in order to have that level of credibility and respect. Yes, ma'am.
I just wanted to add to that for the audience about the advantage of partnering with a research institution. There's these things called IRBs, Institutional Review Boards. If you're doing any kind of testing on human subjects, you need to be very careful about that kind of thing.
Yep.
So again, in this area, academics are your friends.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. That's a great point. So at 3C, we're a research institute. We have our own federally credentialed institutional review board, and that reviews the human subjects section so that the research we do is not going to cause any damage, right? You definitely want to do no harm, and hopefully you're going to do good with your work. But you do need to have that oversight, and it's an advantage of working with a research institute. Am I done?
Yep.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you, and great questions. So